There's been a lot of innovation, not just from Aruba, but also from our peers in the industry. And along with that innovation comes a ton of new buzzwords: cloud-delivered security, SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, the idea of zero trust networking, dynamic segmentation. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is not just one of those things, or saying we do SASE or we do zero trust networking. I want to talk to you about our comprehensive approach, which we call edge to cloud security. It really recognizes that security is not something that you do only in the cloud, nor do you do it only at the edge. It's about a comprehensive approach that goes all the way from the edge through to the cloud. And that's what we're going to deliver and talk about today. Now, why listen to me? Why listen to Aruba? I think you should, because everybody in the industry has a different heritage, and we've got one that's unique. Now, there are a bunch of innovators in this area, like Zscaler or Netskope, that were truly born in the cloud. And they're coming at this problem thinking, how do we solve the problem from the cloud? And what can we do in the cloud? How can we help? And how can we direct traffic to ourselves in the cloud, perhaps using agents? On the other side of the table, you've got security players that were born in the data center. People like Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet. They've specialized in building a perimeter around your most precious assets there in the data center, building a fortress. And now, as that perimeter is dissolving, they're thinking about how do we take our perimeter-based technology and repurpose it for a world where the cloud is more important. Now, as I said, Silver Peak and Aruba are rather unique in that we weren't born in the cloud, and honestly, we weren't born in the data center. Both our companies were born at the edge of the network. And I think that gives us a really unique perspective. And so I hope you'll hear me out here in terms of how we think about security. So the first thing is that we think of the edge as being at least as important as the data center or the cloud. In fact, we think the edge is the pivot point that enables you to make a security transformation and a WAN transformation at your pace. We allow you to make this journey without compromise and doing things in a way that makes sense for you and your business and where you're at. So why is the edge so important? Well, first of all, it's where we can intercept all the traffic. We can intercept traffic from people to apps, which is one very important use case and one that SASE is very focused on. But equally, we also are able to intercept all of the device traffic. And so all that IoT traffic, that stuff that enables digital transformation, we're also able to intercept that at the edge. And then, having intercepted that traffic, we can apply policy. So we can decide, should this traffic go to the data center or should this traffic go to the cloud? We can decide, does this traffic, should it be inspected with our own built-in firewall, our own built-in threat management system? Or is this traffic that you want to have inspected by a third-party cloud service? Or do you want us to send this to the firewall framework that you have in your data center? Either way, we can help you make that transition. We can help you decide which is the right approach for different segments of your traffic. And we can let you evolve that over time. This is the power of the edge. The edge is the point at which you're able to pivot from where you are today to where you want to get to. So you'll hear a lot of security pitches about where you want to get to. But often a big piece of what's missing is how do you get there from where you are today? And so that's what Aruba Edge to Cloud Security is all about.
Providing seamless connectivity and adding network security infrastructure to remote branch offices and retail stores can be a big challenge, since locations often lack on-site personnel to properly install and configure this equipment. Meanwhile, branch offices are struggling to keep pace with escalating bandwidth demands from mobile clients, IoT devices, and cloud applications. Providing the necessary bandwidth over legacy MPLS circuits can be expensive, and lower-cost internet links don't always provide the reliability your branch offices need. Secure SD Branch is a comprehensive solution that combines SonicWall's secure SD-WAN technology, secure wired and wireless LAN solutions, and cloud-based centralized management. Secure SD Branch enables you to quickly and cost-effectively upgrade the network security infrastructure of your remote locations, while giving you the power to centrally manage all your remote networks, no matter where they're located. The result is a reliable, flexible, and secure end-to-end solution that simplifies connectivity. A typical SD branch deployment consists of a SonicWall enterprise-class next-generation firewall at a central administrative site. TZ Series next-generation firewalls are an ideal fit for branch locations and provide the highest level of security without an enterprise-level investment. SonicWall's secure SD-WAN technology allows organizations and enterprises with branch locations to build a highly available and higher performance WAN, so you can get cost-efficient, fast, and reliable connectivity without the high price of legacy WAN technologies like MPLS. And secure SD-WAN technology is built into SonicOS, the operating system for SonicWall next-generation firewalls, so there's no need to purchase separate and costly SD-WAN appliances and licenses. SonicWall network access switches help secure network traffic, with models ranging from 8 to 48 ports and power over Ethernet capabilities, so you can support the growing number of PoE and IoT devices in your branch locations. SonicWall switches also work seamlessly with PoE-powered SonicWave 802.11 AC wireless access points, allowing you to easily extend the security of the wired network to your Wi-Fi, while providing high-performance wireless connectivity with cloud management capability. And SonicWall firewalls, switches, and wireless access points are easy to install thanks to SonicWall's zero-touch deployment. Just register, connect, power up, and manage. SonicWall's secure SD branch also delivers comprehensive security for endpoint clients through SonicWall Capture Client, a unified endpoint client protection platform that delivers next-generation malware defense, visibility into encrypted traffic, and rollback protection. The widespread adoption of cloud applications has made protecting user data in the cloud crucial. SonicWall Cloud App Security provides next-generation security for cloud apps and helps organizations adopting SaaS applications to deliver a seamless user experience and best-in-class security. And SonicWall Secure SD Branch provides centralized management, reporting, and analytics through Capture Security Center, SonicWall's cloud-based single pane of glass management console. When it comes to managing everything, Capture Security Center provides complete, centralized management from any location using any web-enabled device, so you get the confidence of knowing your network and data are protected by one of the world's leading network security solution providers. SonicWall has been defending small and medium-sized businesses and enterprises against cybercrime for over 27 years, so you can do more business with less fear.
Remote work is here to stay, and distributed organizations must learn to adapt as the nature of work changes. A Gallup poll has shown recently that more than 50% of workers want to continue to work from outside of the office. The early success that we had in the spring and summer of last year has given way to concerns. And the concerns are about network resiliency, about security at the home and in the coffee shop, and also about performance. Now, the way to get around this is to think of the home office or the coffee shop office as being the branch office of an enterprise. As essential services, including telemedicine, as well as government services, move to the home office, VMware has worked with MD Anderson and the city of Columbus to enact our technologies to solve their problem.
Before MD Anderson implemented VMware SD-WAN, radiologists read films over VPN. Large radiology files require secure, accurate transmission. MD Anderson needed rapid, always-on, anywhere access to campus and confidential patient data. The city of Columbus, however, had a different need. Before they used NSX Advanced Load Balancer, they struggled with inefficient hardware and inflexible application delivery. During COVID, the city of Columbus grew from 150 to 3,000 plus remote workers in just days. Hardware load balancers couldn't hack it. VMware provided network and security in the cloud with a single pass architecture for agile deployment and management. Software load balancing enabled rapidly provisioned high-performance virtual desktops and apps. Now, all employees have secure anywhere access. Today, MD Anderson radiologists freely collaborate nationwide thanks to a resilient, secure, flexible, and robust network. And the City of Columbus employees offer mission-critical health and public safety services from their homes. VMware's network agility helps frontline employees and physicians deliver quality services and care.
VMware SD-WAN, NSX ALB, as well as our SASE and work-from-home solutions provide the scaled-out, cloud-first architecture that solves the problems of a distributed enterprise, regardless of whether you need networking, you need security, you need performance, as and when you grow your enterprise away from just the branch offices to accommodating all the points of entry, including the home and the ephemeral office like a coffee shop.
Hello everyone, my name is Teddy Sumulong, President of CompuTrade Technology Philippines and a member of the FINEX ICT Committee. Welcome to Demystifying SD-WAN, reducing wide area network connectivity costs while increasing security, applications, and network performance. This free event is presented by the FINEX Information and Communications Technology Committee, and we want to say a big thanks to our event sponsors, Aruba, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Company, SonicWall Philippines, and VMware Philippines. We are simultaneously streamed live on FINEX official Facebook page and YouTube channel. Okay. At the end of the program, we will give away health vouchers that will allow you to do online consultations to 10 lucky webinar participants. So make sure you stay on. Before we formally start, we would like to invite everybody for a short prayer, which will be followed by the Philippine National Anthem. Lord, let us put ourselves in the presence of God. Loving and gracious God, you are indeed the giver of all good gifts, and we thank you today for all your grace. Thank you for providing us this platform and time to listen and learn as our three resource speakers share their knowledge and expertise to all of us. We lift up our event to you today, and we place our trust in you. In Jesus' name, amen. May I call on our FINEX President and ACRA Law Senior Legal Counsel, Attorney Francis Edlin, for a short message.
Thank you very much, Teddy. A pleasant and good noon to all of you, my fellow FINEX members, distinguished guests, speakers, and guests, and to all who are joining us via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube today. The FINEX ICT Committee has been very busy recently. It has conducted a series of webinars on key topics that lie in the intersection between business and technology. Since March this year, the committee had successfully organized 4 well-attended webinars on securing your organization, cryptocurrency, having a cashless society, and healthcare provision powered by technology. And the recently held August General Membership Meeting on artificial intelligence. Today, the committee is bringing to us once again a component in the digitalization that was fast-tracked by the pandemic we're still in. Our guest speakers, Peter Bouquet of VMware, Ken Dang of SonicWall, and Dean Van of Aruba, will explain and demystify to us the software-defined wide area networking, or what is commonly known as SD-WAN in the technology world. SD-WAN is relatively a new technology which allows companies to build a resilient and cost-effective wide area network that fully supports applications hosted in on-premise data centers, public or private clouds, and other software as a service applications. How do we keep connected? How do we manage and efficiently operate hundreds, if not thousands, of connections? How can we build cost-effective network that is safe, secure, automated, and one that delivers the highest level of application performance? These are only some of the questions that this webinar will try to answer in its simplest laymanized form. A big thank you to our sponsors, Aruba, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Company, SonicWall Philippines, and VMware Philippines. Thank you as well to our hyperactive ICT committee, chaired by Ray Lugtu and vice-chaired by Mark Doriguizeta, with liaison director Sonti Garcia, and to the webinar organizing team led by Teddy Sumulong and Bong Paloma. Of course, thank you to our staff for helping to organize and put this webinar together. Mabuhay ang FINEX, and please enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. Let me just introduce our 3 speakers today and explain their background. We have 3 speakers that are coming from leading software companies. Let me introduce first Peter Bouquet. His career spans 25 years in the telecommunications industry, and as the director of VMware SD-WAN by VeloCloud sales team, he is responsible for growing the SD-WAN business following the acquisition of VeloCloud by VMware in 2017. Before joining VMware in 2019, Peter held senior roles at Citrix, Vodafone, and prior to that, he was the head of products and technologies for Cisco Systems in Asia Pacific. Ken has over 20 years. Ken from SonicWall has had over 20 years of technology, product management, and product marketing experience, creating and directing product development and launching strategies for new product introductions. He specializes in networking, cloud, information security, network management, data protection, disaster recovery, and the storage industry. Ken is currently the Senior Product Marketing Manager for SonicWall's emerging cloud solutions. Last but not least, Dean Vaughn is responsible for the enterprise and service provider business of Aruba, one business across Asia Pacific, including the go-to-market and channel strategies to drive partner engagement and customer acquisition. Previously, Dean served as in various enterprise technology sales positions in Oracle Cloud Platform Solutions in ASEAN, Oracle Visualization and Linux Business in ANZ, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Business in APJ. And was also a part of the NCR Corporation, Cisco Systems Network Integration Business Asia Pacific. Each speaker will have 15 minutes for their message and presentation. We will follow that with a Q&A after the presentations. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you have any questions. To start, may I call on our first speaker today, Peter Bouquet, Head of SD-WAN Sales for Asia Pacific Japan region for VMware. Go ahead, Peter.
I just committed the first sin of presenting is I had the mute button on, so my apologies for that. Good afternoon, Teddy. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's a long time since I've seen a photo of myself with a tie on. I noticed Dean had a tie on in his photo as well. You know, it reminds me of just how long we've been operating in this new normal of working from home, working remotely, collaborating and connecting with people all over the world in a very unfamiliar circumstance for many of us. So wonderful. Thank you to FINEX for putting on this session today and giving us the opportunity to participate. My approach for the next 15 minutes is really to look at the title around demystifying SD-WAN. I'm going to look at demystifying in a couple of areas. First of all, I'm going to try and limit the amount of acronyms and jargon that I use, right? So one of my friends is on the call here, Mo. Mo, I would ask if you hear me using 3 pieces of jargon without explaining them properly, please send me a message, because I want to make sure that we're all using the same language as we talk about some of these new technologies. The second is that I really want to share with you real world examples of customers that we've been working with here in the APJ region over the last 12 months, both in terms of their thought process and how they've been approaching these last 18 months of trying to maintain their own businesses, but then also perhaps to give you a model to use in your thought process. I saw with interest that the 2021 theme for FINEX is around leading beyond recovery. And you'll see that some of our conversations or some of the thoughts that I'm going to leave you with today are really designed to, I guess, create that conversation about how do some of these technologies fit into your business processes or into your business priorities. So if I can, I'll just start by sharing my screen. So the first piece of jargon or acronym, of course, is SASE. And thank you, by the way, to Silver Peak for that video. Seeing David Hughes present was really quite exciting. He's an innovator in the industry. And I think David used the phrase SASE and referred to it as the Secure Access Service Edge. That's a very popular phrase and topic of conversation these days. And it really does refer to the essentially bringing networking and security together in the cloud. I'm going to talk a little bit more about SASE later on, but that's at least one example of an acronym or jargon that I have explained the meaning behind the initials. So the first area I'd like to start off with is just acknowledging how much our lives have changed, how much our communities have changed, our companies, our countries, our schools. There's been so much change over the last 12 to 18 months since the pandemic started. And it's also been a little wavy. There's been times living here in Singapore where it felt like we had everything under control and that we were approaching a return to normality. And then suddenly the virus would take off again. I know that our friends around APJ in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Australia, in Japan, in the Philippines, there's still this constant battle against the virus that is still impacting the way that we can learn, the way that our children are going to school, the way that we're able to play and communicate and share our lives with each other, and the way that our companies can operate. But we've been having these types of conversations now with customers for about 18 months. And what I wanted to share with you is that as I talk with CIOs and customers around the region, when we look at the challenges that they're trying to address, those challenges broadly fit into one of 3 buckets. The first is, how do I help make my people more efficient? How do I, given that we're now in this remote work or at best hybrid work environment, how do I give my people the tools that they need to be effective? How do I give them access to their applications and data? How do I give them reliable, easy to use, high quality video conferencing? And so that's one area of concern for a CIO. But the second one is, how do I make my teams more effective? Now, this is recognizing the fact that the day that we went to a working from home environment, you suddenly had a much expanded footprint within your organization. Sanjay Upal, who's the co-founder of VeloCloud, in his welcoming video, pointed out the fact that now everybody's home is essentially a branch office from a networking and security point of view. So CIOs are looking at this and saying, well, how do I help my teams collaborate more effectively together? How do we get faster decision making? How do we get better decision making? And the third area is around how do I do all those things whilst keeping the company secure? Now, these themes, how do I make my people more efficient, my teams more effective, whilst keeping my company secure? These are three themes that you'll hear throughout the next 12 to 15 minutes as we look at how do I overlay those concerns that businesses have against technologies like SD-WAN, and how can SD-WAN and SASE help address those concerns? So Francis, in his introduction, gave us a very good description around SD-WAN and some of the elements of its technology. It really was perhaps the biggest innovation or a change in the networking industry since MPLS was created at the end of the 1990s and in early 2000s. So with SD-WAN, from a networking point of view, you now have the ability to separate hardware from software. That's why it's called software defined. You have the ability to take any type of connectivity, whether it's MPLS or internet or LTE, and band that connectivity together to give you a greater aggregate path over which to, for example, have a good video conferencing experience like we are today. And it also allows you to have visibility into the traffic into your network, being able to look at in real time, are people getting access to their apps in a high quality way? Is the user experience good? So remember, making my people more efficient, a big part of that is making sure that they have a high quality experience around access to their applications and data. And then also we've been able to leverage SD-WAN as an on-ramp to cloud. In the VeloCloud architecture, we have edge devices in the branch, we have an orchestrator that is the management plane, and we have a gateway, which is the on-ramp to cloud, and that's where all the SaaS apps live and accessed. And one of the differentiators for VeloCloud is our ability to be as close as possible to where those apps are to ensure the best performance for the end user. So that's what SD-WAN has been. These are the three areas that I talked about from an architecture point of view, the edge device, the gateways, and the orchestrator. But let me give you an example of what that looks like in a home environment. So here in my home in Singapore, if on the left-hand side of this diagram is the home, and I have a VeloCloud SD-WAN wedge, a 510 sitting here in my home. But by utilizing it, what I'm able to do is to carve off, if you like, or segment the home traffic. I have 3 young children, so Netflix is in high rotation, YouTube, Minecraft, they're all in high levels of utilization in the house. And I use the SD-WAN box to segment that traffic and take it away so that I can prioritize the business traffic like unified comms, like video conferencing, or accessing my SFDC reports and those sorts of things, as well as being able to access the applications and data that might reside in our corporate data center. So that's an architecture. It's fairly straightforward, but really powerful. And the things that become paramount in this architecture is, imagine if you're a large bank and you're needing to migrate to a work from home environment, having a simple, easy to deploy, easy to replicate architecture means not only can you be up and running fast in response to something like a pandemic, but you've got a platform that is manageable and is secure and can grow with you as you require as you're deploying services across that network. And let me share with you an example. The data that I'm sharing with you here is effectively the end user experience of a video conference call, specifically Zoom. And at the top part of the graph, what we're showing here is when we induce a 20% packet loss on the WAN. So if the WAN is not performing properly and there's a 20% packet loss, you can see that wildly squiggly line. That's effectively the user experience. It goes up and down and up and down. And you can see in the statistics that over that period of time, by introducing a 20% packet loss, 2 things happen. One, the average packet loss across that period of time was 17%, so you'd get very scratchy video. And the resolution dropped to very low definition or 360p resolution. So not only does the frame rate suffer, the latency is introduced, but also the quality of the video diminishes. Now, that same experiment, if you like, or the same lab where we introduced that 20% packet loss using VeloCloud, you can see the user experience is much smoothing. In fact, the average packet loss, it's not 20%, it's not 17%, but it's only 3%. And we also maintain resolution at 720p high definition. So there's an example. Now, the interesting thing is that data didn't come from us. This was data that Zoom put together. Zoom did their in-house testing, and they produced this information for their customers, saying that as important as Zoom was becoming in the pandemic environment, they needed people to have access to infrastructure, such as we have with VeloCloud, that allows them to have good performance. A couple of other studies that talk about areas in which we're able to contribute to better performing networks. Here, we're able to, here you want the score to remain as high as possible. So you want the gray bar to be high. And as you can see, as we go from left to right, the experience of the user decreases on the blue bar, but remains high on the gray bar. Conversely, on the right-hand side, what we're measuring is the speed to download a large file using Office 365. And here what you want is a lower number. So you can see, for example, when we introduce a 2% packet loss, downloading a file is much faster using SD-WAN than it is without SD-WAN. And some examples to share with you. Mission Australia is a charity that supports homeless people. And what they were able to deploy, one of the challenges they had was the high cost of MPLS networks and the availability of those networks around Australia. And by deploying SD-WAN, they were able to connect all their offices, making their people more efficient and their teams more effective in supporting the homeless community in Australia. A second example is where Telkom Telstra was able to roll out thousands and thousands of devices for a large retailer in Indonesia. And what I'm sharing you here is the daily activation amounts. You see, with the project started out slow and then pause to make sure that everything's fine, start to grow faster, and then pause and check. And you can see the way the project has evolved to the point where towards the end of last year, they were rolling out over 100 devices a day because of the simplicity and ease of deployment. And Sanjay talked about the MD Anderson Center in the US. And the key here is that we were able to give their medical staff the same experience at home as if they were working in the office. Now, here's the thought process I'd like you to consider, is we've been responding. Right? We've been responding to the pandemic, to the change in our environment. What we have an opportunity now is to review and optimize our performance, and then look at what that new normal how might it appear in our future. And these are conversations we'd be happy as your VMware team to engage in these conversations with you and say, well, how do we adapt some of these technologies to your current environment into that new normal? And if I could give you two examples of companies that are also thinking along these ways. Salesforce is one of the examples that's most often given as a SaaS app that people access and need access to. Well, they spent $27 billion acquiring Slack. And one of the reasons they did that is because they want to drive better traction around workplace collaboration for their customers. So remember, people use SFDC in their roles to be efficient. And here is Salesforce spending $27 billion to help make them more effective so they can collaborate with their teammates. And more recently, this was just a month ago, Zoom announced they were spending $14 billion on acquiring a cloud contact center company. Now, where Zoom has been so successful in almost democratizing video and getting that in everybody's hands, in everybody's location, I think they're going to do the same with contact center. And if you're a financial institution or a bank and you're looking at how do you deploy contact center services throughout your organization in this new environment, I'm sure if you're using Zoom are going to have a story to share with you very shortly. And both of these scenarios are examples of applications that will drive the adoption of SD-WAN and SASE use cases. Now, I mentioned at the start that SASE is the bringing together of networking and security. Specifically, what we mean by that is on the left-hand side here, we have how people are operating, where they operate, who those people are, and that's called context. So we know everything about, we know who needs to connect to the network, and we know they might be in a different location from time to time, they might be on a different device. And on the right-hand side, it's what are they trying to do? And so this is around policy. What do we want to allow people to do depending on what device they're connected to? And if I was to give you a couple of quick examples, here is on the left-hand side, context. We have the identity of the person, we have the location of the person, we have their IP address, and we see that they're trying to access YouTube on the right-hand side. And so we make a policy decision that says, no, they're not going to be allowed to access YouTube because it contravenes our policies. Or similarly, if from a context point of view on the left-hand side, you might have another user where you know their identity, you know the device that they're using, you know their location, but you can also see that they're not patched at the appropriate level. And so with that context, you could apply the policy that says, we're not going to allow this person to access a particular app in our data center because they are not secure. So this is an example. And again, David Hughes talked about some of these bits of jargon at the start. He talked about SASE. He talked about zero trust network access. These are all things that might be of interest to you. And as a gift, if you like, I'd be happy to share with you access to this SASE and ZTNA for Dummies, which you'd be welcome to download, to read. I'd be interested in hearing your feedback and look forward to answering some of your questions later on today. But Teddy, that's all from me.
Thank you, Peter, and I appreciate all the inputs from VMware. May I call on our second speaker, Ken, Product Marketing Senior Manager of SonicWall. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second, and I will try to share. And if I can get a visual check, and let me know if you all seeing my slides. Okay, yes, I take it silent as yes. Okay. Well, I think good day, everybody. You know, of course, my name's Ken Dang, and and thank you for that introduction. I am the product marketing here at SonicWall. First of all, I just want to say many thanks to the organization and the event giving me this opportunity and being here to have this discussion around SD-WAN. I'm excited about this because I think you all know that this is actually like everybody says, that is a big topic today, obviously, for many of the enterprise around this area. And the reason why it's a big topic is because of how this technology, I should say, make their cloud transformation that much easier for them if they're going in that path. Now, the increase that this technology provides in terms of business agility, in terms of speed, and achieving through this technology is basically being really clearly heard throughout the industry today. It's catching the attention of a lot of the CIOs and other decision makers in the enterprise. So what I hope to do here today, very similar to our previous speaker, is that we can hopefully decode some of the many benefits that SD-WAN promises to help many of us, I should say, who are in this event today, who are non-technologists, but do have a business need, you should say, to better understand the influence of such a technology that they can have on their organization, so that they can make, some sort of informed buying decision, especially a decision that's going to give them a competitive advantage utilizing such a technology. So, but what I like to do is maybe when we talk about demystifying SD-WAN, I thought it'd be a good idea for us to just kind of level set a little bit and have us and start with a very high level perspective of what makes SD-WAN so important, how things were done before SD-WAN technology ever exists, and obviously why there are important problems in previous WAN technology, or WAN architecture, I should say, that really needed to be solved by SD-WAN. So starting with this particular slide, where I will talk to you about how things worked before SD-WAN. Fundamentally, what you see here is a WAN. right? Wide area network, I think. And you have this remote site, you have branch site, you even have home offices or small offices, you got remote workers, and perhaps you even have overseas facility if you're, you are this distributed, big, large distributed enterprise. And you want to have, I should say, inner office, okay? You want to have this inner office connectivity and communication with your, from the branch to your office, to your central office, from your home office to your central office, and things of that nature, right? Now, typically, your IT would obviously rely on a very good, solid MPLS circuit to establish that sort of connectivity between the remote sites back to headquarters, right? But really, what they want to do there is ultimately, they want to connect the user, right, to the application and the data that they need to perform their work, and make sure they can do that regardless of where they are located and regardless of when they want to get access to that information and that application. So, and if you want resiliency so that you can avoid, any single point of failure that could cause everything to stop working, typically an MPLS built network would add a secondary MPLS provider to really take over in case of a primary shutdown and whatever reason that could cause that, right? And for a very long time, that works really, really well, right? MPLS has been the dominant form of network transport for much of the world for a very, very long time. You get reliable and you get quality traffic between headquarters and the branch, home office, regardless of where they are, right? This works, for the most part, because if you really think about it, all the application back then, or still is today sometime, that users access are hosted inside of the corporate data center, right? That could be a number of things, right? So it's an efficient method of WAN networking as long as the business application still exists, in the data center and not in the clouds as they are today. So when you start seeing more and more applications moving to what we would call a software as a service or a SaaS model in the cloud, where you access those apps directly from the internet to do whatever it is that you need to do. That's where you start seeing MPLS suffer, right? Start to suffer in terms of both the application performance and the efficiency as a result from basically having all that traffic, the user traffic, the internet traffic being backhauled, right, over expensive MPLS link back to through the corporate office, so that the users can reach those applications through the internet, as opposed to accessing those applications directly from the internet. Okay, that's a massive, right? If you think about it, it's a massive hit on bandwidth consumption and cost. So this is how things were done when SD-WAN technology didn't exist. There's no other way, right? You would lease an MPL circuit from a local ISP for each of the location to actually make this all happen. So imagine what the cost is to actually create that kind of infrastructure, right? Your IT will attest to that one of the most painful things about deploying a leased MPLS circuit is that it is very, very expensive, okay? And even more so if you start expanding, right? And when your infrastructure is growing bigger, perhaps 50, 100 sites or 200 more sites, right? What do you do? What do you do? Well, there's really no choice but to actually increase your connectivity and bandwidth budget for adding more circuits. So what happened there, right? And what would happen normally? What would happen there is when your company started to expand like that, and MPLS starting to have, starting to be crazy expensive, really costs become, a huge budgetary issue, right? It's a topic of discussion inside corporate. perhaps it could be even a deal breaker in many situations where, you know, when you're considering which type of WAN network that you want to utilize for the future. So IT may start thinking about some alternative approach, right? Doing away with MPL circuits altogether. Instead, going with something that's lost. I mean, I'm sorry, no, in this case, less option than MPLS. So a good an option is it's a good broadband cable internet connection. Should be able to do the trick, right? In this case, you normally would deploy an encrypted VPN link to secure the connection across and between all the sites that you have in your WAN environment. Now, you would say this can work as well, but there are caveats to this approach, right? One of the challenging things with this type of WAN is that it can be really, really difficult to optimize I would say, to guarantee the reliability and the quality of services for a lot of the applications and services over that standard internet connection that you would normally be able to do if you were perhaps on a landline or over a really reliable high performance MPLS circuit as well. So I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit. So things that were normally expected to work without issues, you know, like video calls and voice calls, downloading large files, sending large files, or maybe specifically to your case here, I would say whatever back office and financial and accounting application that you may be using. So making sure that those calls sounds clear, making sure that those videos are not freezing up, not pixelated, make sure the application that you depend on never slows down and never shuts off, right? And that affects the user experience. So, but really guaranteeing all that over the internet connection and VPN is really, really unpredictable, right? But talking with a lot of, you know, in my position, of course, you know, we get to talk to a lot of really, really experienced IT admins and network engineers. Those are the guys that do this sort of work. So if you're giving them a problem like this, they'll tell you that it can be done, okay? But they will also tell you that they'll burn a lot of cycles and a lot of time, sweat and blood, really, right? Just to troubleshoot and tune these quality of service issues and getting it all right, okay? So all this is very complex stuff when what they're doing, and getting the quality there requires a lot of effort, time, which basically at the end of the day increase your overhead costs to keep things optimized, and at the end of the day it's more cost, okay? So which leads us to SD-WAN, right? Why do we need SD-WAN? And especially why do we need it today and why do we need it now? Well, it comes down to all this new cloud stuff, okay, that you see here, right? All these business applications that were once hosted inside the data center are now in the cloud, right? Where you can get to them easier and faster without having to connect back to the corporate office. So what we did to connect users to these applications really has changed quite a bit, right? It's used to be about site-to-site connectivity, you know, everything users need and everything that the business need to make sure that everything functions normally. We're back at headquarters. Our IT just basically need to do everything possible to make sure that our connections were always reliable and the performance is always there to keep all these users happy, right? Making sure that their access to these applications isn't going to, you know, have to be an issue. So that means prioritizing different types of traffic based on how important they are to the business operation is key. But now we have all these different cloud services that, you know, we are using. You might be using Microsoft 365, Google Workspace. You could be using collaboration and other file sharing tools like OneDrive, perhaps, Google Docs, Dropbox, and the other corporate collaboration tools like Teams and Jira and SharePoint and things of that nature. So, I mean, I can really go on and on, right? All these cloud applications, hundreds, thousands of them, right? So that means your IT now And that changes everything, right? IT now no longer, with all these cloud services, you no longer have a need to connect back to the corporate anymore to reach these applications that are now out there in the cloud. So really the new challenge now for IT is to make sure that all these things works flawlessly too, right? They have to, right? However, if you really think about it, without SD-WAN, backhauling all that cloud traffic to corporate over expensive MPS circuit doesn't really make sense operationally or financially, because you'll be taxing your bandwidth quite a bit, because things like it can cause traffic congestions, for example, jitters and latencies that perhaps going to affect application performance, which in the end will affect the user experience, and then that translate to their productivities as well. So and of course with that your bandwidth costs can go over the roof, and that really that really hits the bottom line, and that is something that your CIOs and your CFO are going to watch very, very closely, and going to ask if there is a better way, if there's another way. So what we need here is just a smarter and a better way, but also a way that can significantly lower your costs to build out this new WAN environment that has all this cloud stuff in it. And when you get all these users and you are trying to access application that is sitting out there in the cloud and coming through in a lot of different locations, and they're coming in from a lot of different connection type as well, like 4G or Wi-Fi, or other types of transport. How do you guarantee delivering that great user experience? Well, SD-WAN lets you see all that traffic, right? And when you are able to see all that traffic, you're going to be able to provide users with the best path, right, to get to what you're after, right? Since SD-WAN by nature is designed to be application aware, it really uses that special magic software and helps steer traffic across the WAN based on the business priorities for any specific application, right? It'll help you choose a bandwidth based on the current condition of your network, right? So making sure that your user experience is great and the business critical application doesn't slow down, that's the key, right? Another serious challenge with respect to users going over the different connection type is how do you actually keep them secure, okay? And SD-WAN solves that by letting us bring in all the necessary security services to do that. SD-WAN inherently gives us that end-to-end encryption for all of the site on the SD-WAN infrastructure, so that we can keep all that traffic from being eavesdropped. But having that complete visibility and control of that traffic to SD-WAN software, that also allows us to bring in other security services to make it super, super secure as well. Things like tools like advanced threat scan, we have intrusion scan. You can do deep analysis with sandboxing when somebody's trying to download something, like a file, or you can have content filtering to block some bad apps from even reaching the user. So you have all this coming together to give you this comprehensive threat management capability, right? And then last but not least, there's also the cost factor, right? I think from an MPO, I think that I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, but cost is one of the top, and if not the top factor in deciding which type of WAN network that is best for you to actually build for the future, right? And then lastly, before SD-WAN, things were managed device by device historically. And of course, what that means is it's very labor intensive, it's error prone, it's hard, and it's complex. SD-WAN allows us to bring the software layer, allows us to bring the central management capability so that you can get that single pane of glass experience, making it super easy, super cost effective, and super scalable, and most importantly, super secure when you're building out this new SD-WAN infrastructure. So think about it, right? I mean, like MPOS, SD-WAN also centers around this need to connect your branch, your remote sites, your home office to your corporate sites. But there's more, right? it actually understood how things were done in the past, and seeing those big challenges and issues that we just talked about that customers are experiencing and solving it very, very effectively. The magic is in that intelligent software, giving us really smarter and faster way to build out a more, I would say, a more capable and a more efficient, a secure WAN. So, with that said, I mean, we talk a lot about cost savings, right? Cost. So how does SD-WAN help reduce costs? So when you calculate costs in this case, we have to measure both hard savings and soft saving to be precise with our estimate. However, if you think about soft saving, like improved productivity, lower overhead, reduce infrastructure chargeback, and things like that, those things are more complex. And the metrics that you're going to use are different for every company. So I like to keep things simple here. It's a very simple math here. We focus purely on hardware. I mean, hard savings from a perspective of moving from an MPOS WAN to an SD-WAN, okay, architecture. And I like to stress though that this is an example, and it's just an estimate aimed at giving us a very rough idea of what the potential cost saving may look like for you. Now on the MPS front, I sat down with our IT department and gathered some cost figures that we saw from recent contract proposal that we received. And on the SD-WAN front, business broadband internet pricing is really broadly available online. Price variance reflects the bundle services that they provide and that they offer you. So what we do here, we elected to provide you a cost range that we observe with our estimates, so that, and that's for that reason, right? We do that. And based on those raw figures, the potential cost saving, and if I did the math correctly here, you can expect to see somewhere between 38% to 80% cost saving. But in reality, your saving will likely fall into this range. But the things that will affect these estimates are, one, you may not, for example, on the remote site, you may not need 300 megabits performance at your remote site. Maybe 20 megs is more than enough. And then two, with SD-WAN technology being widely available now, we have MPLS provider now out there wanting to compete with SD-WAN. So they are super, super aggressive and looking at lowering down their price so that they can keep your business. So your IT team here in this case will have better figures for you and from the service provider in your local area to get you a more precise estimate. But again, take that as a very rough estimate. The benefits of SD-WAN, well, I think here's just a recap of all the benefit that you get from SD-WAN. We cover most of these already in what we just talked about. I assume that you're going to get a copy of this presentation, so I do encourage you to review these details at your leisure. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip that. So a little bit about SonicWall, right? SD-WAN adoption is rapidly growing. Anytime you see this technology growth, you're also going to see CIOs and their leadership team asking about this, because they really want to leverage the innovation for a reason that we just discussed, right? SonicWall is living up to delivering these SD-WAN promises. This architectural diagram really gives you a broader perspective of SonicWall entire security portfolio and how they come together as one security platform to help you with your cloud journey and making it less painful and ensuring that it's going to be safer for you to do so. We've been innovating since 1991, and delivering on more promises and meeting new expectations with respect to advancing security and improving operation efficiencies and of course, reducing IT costs along the way. So, SD-WAN is a big part of that promise to deliver that real business value. And real business value is in the sense that make it possible for the enterprise to really expand branch location quickly, and doing it easily and doing it securely with this SD-WAN connectivity. So basically, you can have your WAN and you can communicate with each other over this low cost public internet services, as opposed to having to do that over the old MPLS circuit, right? although it can work, SD-WAN can work and combine your broadband, MPLS, fiber, and everything else along with it into the fold. And that really becomes part of your growth strategy with the SonicWall Security SD branch solution here that I'm showing. Because this is where we combine our SD branch technology with the SonicWall firewalls and the wireless access point and secure switches that you see earlier in the video from SonicWall, and being able to unify them in the simple common management platform that not only going to achieve what we talked about, security and operational goals that we're after, but also delivering on that business value itself. And that's it. I mean, that's all I have, and I look forward to also taking some questions about how SonicWall can help you with your SD-WAN journey. And back over to you, to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Ken. Appreciate the time and the insights on SD-WAN from a SonicWall perspective. Our last speaker is Dean from the Service Provider Business Unit Lead from Asia Pacific of Aruba and Hewlett Packard. Go ahead, Dean.
Hi, thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to present today. On Aruba Edge Connect, just for the record, those of you who know us will know us as from traditionally being Silver Peak. We're now officially Aruba Edge Connect. So just give me 1 second while I. Okay, good. All right. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about two things. So obviously SD-WAN and helping demystify and understand all things SD-WAN, and also follow on a little bit from what David spoke about at the beginning of the presentation when it comes to SASE, and where Aruba Edge Connect or Silver Peak really does make a difference and enable you as organizations to be able to transform your environment. Now, firstly, let me call out. The Philippines is a territory, a geography, a market that is well suited to SD-WAN. You're an archipelago and you've got a large population, and that population is dispersed across multiple islands and multiple locations. And the infrastructure to the latency issues, the infrastructure issues with regards to the Philippines is it can be troublesome, particularly if you're an organization with lots of sites nationally outside of Manila. And so we've been working with a lot of companies in the Philippines with regards to helping them improve the performance of their wide area network, and really helping and assisting them in the transforming their wide area network so that they can not only meet the needs of today, but the needs of the future as well. And if you think about it, let's just cast our mind back 10 years. Who ever heard of the cloud, right? What is the cloud? And now we've got countries like the Philippines being a cloud first nation. Your government has been very vocal about putting the cloud first. So of all of the Southeast Asian nations, I certainly would say that the Philippines is a leader when it comes to the cloud. But who would have thought of the cloud? And now we're all working from home, right? I'm presenting to you today actually from a hotel room in Sydney. Who would have thought that we would be in this environment just 2 years ago, right? It was just phenomenal. So the one message that we're seeing today in the market and from our customers is that it's transformational. Things are changing. So the core message that I really wanted to give you, and when we get to the end of the presentation, is what I would like you to think about when it comes to SD-WAN is that SD-WAN enables you to be able to transform your wide area network. It removes the restrictions that many of us have faced over the years because of legacy network architecture. And I'll talk a little bit about that, right? SD-WAN enables you to not only deal with the challenges that you're facing today, but also what's around the corner. And I think, the two examples I just spoke about, the cloud, and now we're having to work from home and a global pandemic. I mean, who knows what's around the corner, right? And so it's really incumbent upon organizations to be able to have a wide area network that is flexible, dynamic, and an ability to be able to respond. So what do I mean by that, right? So what I mean by that is as follows. Firstly, I'm sure most of you are all on if not started, you're considering or looking at a digital transformation, right? And when you think about your digital transformation, what are you thinking about? Well, okay, applications. That's the first place everyone goes. So modernizing your applications, whether you've got a hybrid virtual environment, for your applications running on, or you're looking to host applications in the cloud, or you're moving to more SaaS-y applications, your applications are being modernized, right? And we've seen Oracle, SAP, all of the Salesforce, all of the application vendors have really enabled their applications to be cloud ready and enabled them to be able to be offered in that cloud environment. And then there's infrastructure, right? So with the infrastructure, I'm sure you've all built data centers with lots of servers that are running, virtualization, some sort of hypervisor technology, and you're running those applications on those environments. You've got your applications sitting in your data center, and now more and more you're using other applications that are in the cloud, and you're putting in infrastructure which enables you to move workloads backwards and forwards from the cloud. But the problem has been that we've addressed applications, we've addressed infrastructure, but the industry overall forgot about the wide area network. And not only did they forget about the wide area network, it's been a limitation. I mean, it's great to have slides that all talk about the cloud, but if you haven't optimized or addressed the limitations of the wide area network, doesn't matter how great your digital transformation strategy is, if your applications and your performance doesn't scale to meet that, you've got problems, right? And it's not just the wide area network, but it's also the security as well. How do you deal now with the complexity and the security challenges that we have? And that's where SASE comes into it. And that's really I think the core message from David in that regard. And when we think of SASE, I think Frost and Sullivan did some data, some analysis, and from memory, of the 5 components that they'd identified of SASE, SD-WAN was by far the major component. You can't have a secure access service edge without SD-WAN. You need that flexibility in your wide area network to be able to address the security complexities that we're dealing with. So before I go into sort of where we're coming from, I want to take us on a journey on where we've come from. And we see this type of network topology still in many customers' environments within the Philippines and around the world. So if you take a look at the diagram here, what we've got is you've got this traditional networking environment where the branch locations, your mobile users, your home office, I'm sure this looks familiar. You're routing all of your applications. We call this backhauling. You're backhauling all of your applications to a corporate data center. And even though you might be starting to adapt and use public cloud applications, what are you doing? You're backhauling it to Manila, and then you're breaking it out to the point of presence from Microsoft or AWS or Oracle or whoever, right? And so as a result of that, what we've got here is a very legacy-based architecture. And it's a legacy-based architecture because of 2 reasons. Cisco for years have been quite happy selling you routers. They've been working with Globe and PLDT to put an MPLS, dedicated MPLS link in. They've given a message that, hey, it's highly secure, it's a great environment, and your applications have been sitting back in the data center, right? And the problem has been now, though, your organization is starting to leverage applications that are in the cloud or in other locations. And the problem is, when you're backhauling all of those applications to the data center, you're increasing your costs on MPLS links, you're not breaking traffic out in an efficient model from the branch office, and you're probably paying higher costs with regards to having to route all that traffic through the data center. And in the data center, what's in there? Firewalls, proxy servers, who knows what else. And all of those infrastructure technologies are slowing down the traffic. So we see this a lot in our customers' network. And really what came about, what drove SD-WAN was the fact that organizations were realizing that this architecture that you see here, this backhauling model, it doesn't scale. It doesn't work, it's costly, it's cumbersome, and it doesn't meet the needs of what the cloud is able to bring along. So along came SD-WAN, and SD-WAN is a technology that really breaks this model and provides you the ability and the flexibility to be able to transform your wide area network. And as I mentioned earlier, to transform it so that you don't have to deal with the problems, not only to address your pain today, but also in the future. So David spoke, you would have seen these diagrams actually in his video. It's not just the limitations of this old 1990s style of architecture of backhauling traffic to the data center. Security now becomes a big issue as well. Because if on the left here with the light blue circle, what do we got? We got all the branch offices. The branch offices, once again, backhauling from a security point of view to the data center, where you've got this firewall, this round ring, and then you break the traffic out to the public cloud. But this is slow, it's cumbersome. But now you've got other problems starting to creep into your network, and that is that IoT, you've got your Aruba rep, right? Your Aruba's coming in and talking to your organization about turning what were traditionally, items that had no IT connection into IT connections. So now you've got not only your headquarters, your branch offices, your users, but IoT devices all connecting onto your network, and they're all wanting to break out and talk to all these different cloud providers, and putting a secure firewall, putting a secure model in place to be able to protect all of that. As your network is being transformed, as your divisions, your users are asking for more and more flexibility, they want to be able to offer intelligent devices. They want to be able to offer more flexibility to their customers from an IT point of view. They want to be able to access, putting together a secure environment for this type of environment. It's tough. It's a challenge, particularly if your network still looks like this, right? If you still got this type of architecture, it's difficult. So SD-WAN helps address this. So if we think about it, let's look at this from a security point of view. So what are we seeing in the industry? I'm sure if you're talking to our friends at Fortinet and Palo Alto, and to a lesser extent Checkpoint, but certainly Fortinet and Palo Alto, they're going to be talking to you about the fact that, you know what, hey, not only can we take care of your security, but we can also take care of your SD-WAN. But now you're looking at this, you're thinking to yourself, hold on a second, I'm hearing about organizations such as Zscaler, and we know that Zscaler has a big presence in the Philippines. We're talking to a lot of customers that are looking at Zscaler, Netscope, and Cloudflare, and these are cloud-based firewall services. So we've got this complexity coming. You've got your traditional firewall organization, security vendors such as Palo, Checkpoint, and Fortinet. You may have a big investment in Palo Alto, Checkpoint, or Fortinet already with your on-premise firewalls. And then you're looking at the fact that, hey, hold on a second, I'm using all these cloud-based applications, and I know that there's value in being able to break my traffic out and run it through a cloud-based firewall service. Particularly if you're a bank or financial institution, you need to make sure you've got that latest security. So there's this convergence, those born in the data center and those security vendors that are born in the cloud. From a Aruba point of view, we take a look at this differently. And as David just said, we talk about being born at the edge. Aruba and Silver Peak, the two companies, as we've come together as one, really do understand the complexities and the issues with the edge and the challenges that are faced with the edge and securing the edge environment. And we do this via two different mechanisms. So the first is partnering with the leading cloud firewall providers. And with that, let's take a look at it. With SD-WAN, rather than having to backhaul all of my applications to a data center where I've got a firewall, what I'm now able to do with SASE is look at my branch environment here, and I can get granular and decide what do I want to do with each application from a security point of view. So we're talking to a number of organizations in the Philippines. We have a number of customers that today, they may have an existing investment in Fortinet or Checkpoint from a firewall point of view. And what they're doing is they're putting a Aruba Edge Connect device here, and they're saying, you know what, these applications, these are mission critical. So I'm going to keep these applications over a dedicated MPLS link, and I'm going to break that traffic out, and I'm going to send it back to my data center. The reason I'm going to do that is I might have a legacy Oracle application or a legacy SAP application, and it's highly customized. It could be running Oracle 9i or 10G. And you know what? I'm just going to break that traffic out and route it back to that provider. But now your organization, Microsoft has come out and said, you know what, we're no more Office 365 on-prem. Everything needs to be broken out to the cloud. So as a result of that, what we're now doing is we're seeing organizations, they're saying, Microsoft saying Office 365 is a trusted application. So rather than backhaul my Office 365, I'm going to route it back to rather than backhaul it back to my data center, I know that's trusted, so I'm going to break that traffic out and I'm going to send it directly to Office 365. And I might do the same with Zoom because I know these applications are trusted. But now, because I've got SD-WAN built in, I'm now saying, you know what, these applications here, I'm not necessarily so sure I want to trust them. So what I'm doing is I'm using my SD-WAN environment here, and I'm breaking those applications out, and I'm sending them to a Zscaler or a Netscope. And so what I'm doing is that the reason I say I wanted to share this with you is that there's no one answer to SASE. You're going to, as you come across and talking to different vendors, you're going to have as I mentioned, your Fortinets and your Palo Altos are going to say, hey, listen, we can take care of your security and we can take care of your SD-WAN. And then you're going to have other vendors such as Zscaler and Netscope, and they're going to be saying to you, hey, you know what, just break everything out, send it all to us, we will track everything. And that model is inefficient as well. So the smartest customers, the organizations we're working with, are taking advantage of all of the different vendors, and based on using the Aruba Edge Connect SD-WAN, they're saying, you know what, I'm going to keep my Checkpoint firewall on-premise investment, and I'm going to look after and I'm going to keep these apps sitting in my data center. But you know what? I'm also going to expand my cloud presence. So I'm going to break this traffic out and put it over the network. And here, with these trusted apps, I'm going to use my Aruba Edge Connect, and I'm going to break that traffic out, and I'm going to send it direct to Microsoft. And this is important because one size doesn't fit all, right? And we see time and time again customers with a complex security strategy, and they're needing to be able to address multiple different scenarios. Then the next situation that we're seeing customers start to address is IoT. So more and more now, the edge is changing. It's not just the branch office. The edge is becoming any device which is connected to your network, no matter where the device is. Now, I know this is a finance organization, but in this particular example, we had a retailer, and that retailer was hacked. They didn't have Aruba Edge Connect, but they're hacked because the organization broke into, from one of their stores, the air conditioning unit, which had a Wi-Fi connected to it to be able to control the temperature. and they broke in and they routed through the cloud provider, and they then went into the data center and stole all of the customers' data center information. So the proliferation of IoT devices just adds further complexity to being able to secure your wide area network. Versus in a scenario where Aruba together with Silver Peak, we run technologies that track the users and the access points of the users, and ClearPass is the best example of this, where together with the cloud security providers, we're able to actually take a look at each user. Where is that user accessing? Should that IoT, and in the case of this retailer, should that fan be accessing the corporate data center, or should that fan's traffic be routed out to its cloud service provider? So with IoT and the rapidly increasing proliferation of cloud applications, you need an environment, you need a wide area network that isn't backhauling all of its traffic to the data center, that is able to address the complexities of this environment. So with that, we see a situation where now we have a very flexible, dynamic, an environment that enables us to be able to transform our customers to transform their wide area network. So I'll walk you through this. And this is the value that SD-WAN brings. So today, for example, I may have my branch environment, right? And in my branch could be in Cebu. Now, I've got a couple of problems in Cebu. My first problem is that I have poor MPLS links. So now with my Edge Connect device, I may choose to route certain traffic over that MPLS link, but I know that, you know what, if that MPLS link goes down, I may decide that I want to route that traffic via another route back to my corporate data center, but I may want to route that traffic over a broadband link. We're also seeing lots of customers down in the Philippines not just break the traffic out over MPLS, but they're now starting to break the traffic out. They're leveraging LTE, particularly 4G and 5G. So they're using MPLS as their primary link, and they're routing traffic over a secondary link. We're also seeing customers start to get very smart in the way they go about it. So what they're doing now is they're routing traffic over their primary MPLS link, but they're sending packets equally down alternate links, and whichever packet arrives first to the location is the packet that the Edge Connect device receives. So SD-WAN, from a performance point of view, particularly in countries such as the Philippines where we have poor links, gives you the opportunity now not to be limited and constrained and have to route all of your traffic back over MPLS. SD-WAN gives you the ability now to route traffic over multiple transports and give you the flexibility and the reliability that you've so desperately wanted. And as a banking and financial institution, if your branch in Cebu goes down because of poor infrastructure, that costs you money, right? And so SD-WAN now gives you that flexibility. Take that on another level, and we now have the ability to be able to, MPLS in the Philippines can be very expensive, just as the gentleman from Sonic Ball had spoken about. So now with that, what we can do is we can start to offer you alternate transports that might be cheaper. So you may say, you know what, I'm going to break my Salesforce traffic out to the internet anyway. So I'm going to route that over broadband. And now I no longer need that expensive MPLS link. So we're seeing customers across the Philippines save tremendous amounts of money by using broadband rather than MPLS as their primary and even secondary transport, and being able to save significant amounts of costs. But then most importantly, from a financial point of view, your biggest concern is going to be security. So if with security, now what I do is I can get granular, and we call this business first, right? So you can now sit down with your business and you can say, all right, what are the applications that are mission critical that we cannot, from a secure point of view, we have to make sure is fully secure? So those applications you keep on an MPLS link and you route them back to your data center because, like I mentioned, it could be running Oracle 9i. But now you say to the business, okay, what applications aren't necessarily as secure? So I'm now going to break that traffic out and I'm going to send it to my cloud delivered security provider. But my mobile users at home and my home users, you know what, I don't trust anything about that. And as Peter spoke about, right, with the, you know, at his home, with his children, you know, running different Netflix and all sorts of other technologies, you may now decide, you know what, I don't trust any traffic coming from a home of the user. So I'm going to send all that traffic to Zscaler, Palo's Prisma, Checkpoint, CloudGuard, or Netscope. I'm going to have them inspected. And then the applications that I want to route back to my data center, I'm going to do so. And the other applications, I'm going to break them out and I'm going to send them to the public cloud. But if you think about that first slide or the earlier slide I showed you with that architecture, where you've got that backhaul, you've got your branch office, dedicated router, dedicated MPLS, everything going back to your data center, it doesn't give you that flexibility to be able to decide at an application level, what do I want to do? So the fundamental value that we see ourselves bringing organizations is that we can be not just a vendor that supports and addresses the SD-WAN needs of today and the problems of today, but a vendor that can be flexible in the future. And our position is that if you sort of understand where we differentiate ourselves from our competition, it's primarily we are solely focused on SD-WAN. Our primary goal is to be the #1 SD-WAN vendor, to be at the forefront of wide area networking technology, and to partner with the leading SASE cloud service providers. So with Zscaler, Checkpoint, and Netscope, we have full API integration. So you literally, from our orchestrator, log on to these vendors' technologies and you control. And through API, our orchestrator will go out, it will identify all of the Zscaler points of presence. We will automatically build tunnels and we'll automatically route that traffic to the closest Zscaler, Netscope, or Checkpoint cloud-based point of presence. And this is important because as we see time and time again from customers, it's never a one-size-fits-all. It's always a combination. They have firewalls and they have cloud security providers. This diagram here, the final point that I'll make is, you know, David spoke about this. The reason that we have taken this line of thinking, the reason where we are focused is that the edge is changing. The edge is changing so fast. You've got IoT, you've got security, you've got cloud, you've got pandemic, you've got work from home. Where I would really like you all to think about Aruba Edge Connect from an SD-WAN point of view is that we provide you the ability to be able to transform your wide area network so that you're not limited by what I spoke about earlier, which is outdated architectural designs, legacy designs that limit your ability to be able to address the needs, not just today, but in the future. So with that, we have a white paper. This white paper hasn't yet been updated, but I do, the technology here and what it talks about is all very relevant. It's still got our old logo, but my point is that, you know, to really, when you want to think about why should you be looking at SD-WAN, the main point is to be able to have that flexibility in your network so that you're not limited in the options that are available for you, right? And particularly when you're a financial institution, you need an SD-WAN vendor that is going to be able to work with every leading security provider so that you get the best in security and the best in wide area networking. So with that, guys, hopefully I didn't go over. I don't think so. And I'll hand it back to the team.
Thank you so much, Dean. That was very insightful as well, and appreciate your time to contribute and share your experiences pertaining to SD-WAN. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Bong Paloma, a fellow ICT member and Executive Vice President and General Manager of AMPI, who will be running our panel and Q&A discussion this afternoon. So I'm hoping that you have a lot of questions in mind for our panelists, so that we can provide more insights and inputs pertaining to the technology of SD-WAN. Take it away, Bong. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ted, and congratulations, Peter, Ken, and the other guy, Dean. Thank you for a very insightful presentation and a very informative one. This webinar is very timely as companies start to find ways to maximize and optimize their connectivity budgets to support a growing number of connections. And we all know that during the pandemic, almost all companies have pivoted in order to support what we call the work from home setup. And as we move into the new normal, a typical hybrid work office and work from home, which is a hybrid setup, needs to be supported as well. So we have questions for all three speakers. I would like to start by asking the first question. Now, it seems that the connectivity of SD-WAN looks a little bit more complex compared to the traditional one that we know of, where we only deal with routers and head office and firewall perimeter security. Today, when you look at edge, we have to look at a data center, on-premise or cloud-based. We have to look at cloud, we have to look at people, we have to look at remote connectivity. And as Dean had mentioned, we have to look at IoT, which is also a vulnerable asset that might be exploited by other people. So if a network like SD-WAN seems to be complex, what kind of tools do you offer in order to automate, manage this kind of network infrastructure? We'd like to start with Peter, and then Ken, and then Dean.
Sure. So first of all, it's our great hope, and I'm sure that Ken and Dean would agree with this. It's our great hope that as an industry, we're taking some of that, at least some of that complexity away. Right? We're trying to bring simplicity to a complex environment. And the way that we would do that is we have management tools. One of the three areas that I mentioned in our architecture is an orchestrator. Single pane of glass gives you visibility to network performance. We're able to get per packet reporting on the quality of a link. So if I've got a Zoom call that's in motion and the link deteriorates to the point where we're going, look, that's not a good path for the call to continue, we can move it to the next path, and that next path might be an internet circuit, it might be a 4G connection, it could be some other connection, and we still maintain the call. So importantly for the user, it has to be simple. It just has to work, right? And then from the company's point of view, we want to provide the tools to manage, but also visibility. There's a part of our SASE solution called Edge Network Intelligence, ENI, and that is all about providing full, as the name suggests, intelligence into what's happening in the edge of the network. And again, I'll use Zoom as an example. If a user was to report a poor experience on a Zoom call, using Edge Network Intelligence, we'd be able to pinpoint exactly where was the problem in the network. Was it at the wireless access point? Was it the network level, et cetera, et cetera? So first point is we would hope to bring simplicity to what has traditionally, I agree, been a complex environment. And secondly, we provide the tools, and those tools might be used by the customer themselves or might be used by a partner who is delivering all these things as a managed service, which again is another level of hopefully simplicity that we can bring to the table. But that's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Peter. And Ken?
I made the same mistake. Try to talk in a mute condition. My apologies. No, I think I definitely follow and wanted to amplify, of course, around making simplicity wise. I think what you want to know and what you want to see when you're actually evaluating an SD-WAN solution is the fact that you're going to have to figure out whether the solution has the ability, and then the tool, the central management tools, the orchestration tools, that they have those type of management capability to onboard. And then once you onboard them, you're going to have to be able to centrally manage them across your entire WAN. So you talk about many devices across many different locations, user, different different traffic, different path, and making sure that those paths are tuned and optimized to make sure that the user experience is at its greatest and at its peak, right? There's nothing going to degrade the user experience. There's no performance in the application that's going to degrade the user's productivity and things of that nature, right? And along with the management piece, you have to have good monitoring tools as well, so that you have good visibility into all that traffic. And then basically using that specialized software that SD-WAN provides you to dynamically select the path and steer them based on the network conditions that it sees. So if there's congestions here, then move them on to another path, right? And things like that. If there's jitters, there's latencies anywhere, let's go ahead and move them too. So and then looking at and see if there's any of that, and being able to troubleshoot them in real time, so that you can avoid those poor application performance conditions, and then putting a risk on the business as well. So I just wanted to amplify that.
Thank you, Ken. Dean, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, what Ken and Peter both spoke about with regards to reporting and analysis, certainly that is spot on. We invest a lot of time and effort in making sure that the reporting and the functionality that can make life a lot easier for our users, particularly with regards to the orchestrator. There's something else that we do as well, which I think is particularly relevant. If you think about the wide area network, I touched on this in the presentation, it is literally the glue, right? It's touching so many different areas. It is, we talk about at Aruba, the edge to the cloud. We're the edge to the cloud company, right? And the idea being that you've got to connect to the edge and then also connect to the cloud. So with regards to that, we're investing a lot of time and effort in working with the SASE providers, as I mentioned, the API integration with regards to Zscaler, Checkpoint, and Netscope. With that API integration, we turn days of configuration into 5 minutes by literally going out, identifying the nearest points of presence, building the tunnels. All of that happens basically seamlessly after you just log on with your login details for your cloud service provider. But it's not just the SASE. I didn't touch on this in the presentation because of the time, but we're investing a lot of time. We're working with Azure, Office 365, and also AWS, where we're certified by all three different teams. Interestingly, Azure has a different certification structure as Office 365, but that's Microsoft. But we're certified by all three, and we have full API integration as well with those vendors. So we're investing, as I mentioned earlier, about being a SD-WAN vendor that can help our customers transform that environment. We recognize the importance of being able to work and interface with all of the different vendors that the SD-WAN technology will interface with. So whether it's the cloud vendors, the SASE security vendors, it's a big focus from the Aruba Edge Connect team to make sure that we drive that ease of use by interfacing and simplifying the interaction that you're going to need.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the audience? Please type in your questions in the chat box, please. I have a follow-up question for, probably I'd like to direct this question to Dean because he's very familiar with the Philippine landscape. Ken had mentioned that the savings of moving from a traditional WAN setup to an SD-WAN is between 30 to 87%. Now, what impact will this technology have on the telco from a revenue point of view?
Oh, so so actually, I lead two businesses in Aruba, right? The software-defined wide area networking business, but I'm also responsible for the service provider business as well. And like everything in every industry, what I was talking about with transformation, the service provider business is transforming as well. So what we're certainly seeing is service providers, those service providers that are stuck in the 90s, that are still pushing an MPLS model with routing because they think that there's high revenue there. They're quickly losing market share because their competitors are pushing an SD-WAN message. And when their competitors are pushing an SD-WAN message, that's resonating with the customers, particularly customers that or service providers that are looking to provide what we call a hybrid model. And that hybrid model is they're saying to the customer, you know what, Mr. Customer, we'll take on your costs with the broadband and LTE and MPLS links. We will take on the router costs, we'll take on the license costs. You just pay us a monthly fee, but we'll give you control over, and you can decide what traffic and applications you want to route down which links. So therefore, you can keep that control, but all of the costs associated gets transferred to us. Now, what the smartest service providers have realized is that actually they might lose on MPLS, but change is inevitable, so they accept that. But they're increasing their revenues because they're offering, and we're seeing this with both Globe and PLDT, where they are wanting to go out to you as customers and they want to offer a full managed SD-WAN service. So actually, yes, on the MPLS links, they're recognizing that they're going to lose revenue, but they're seeing the opportunity of being able to offer a full managed offering to your customers and not to their customers. So not just the links themselves, which is pretty elementary, but a full SD-WAN managed service offering. So, to answer your question, yeah, in certain areas they're losing revenue, but they're gaining in many, many more, and they're gaining more profitable revenue too. And it's a win-win for both them and the customers.
Okay.
And if I could just add on to that to develop that as well. I think that as Dean said, that the service providers that understand that value proposition, they've been going through a transformation for a few years now. Telstra in Australia was actually an early investor in VeloCloud before VMware acquired VeloCloud. So there's an example of how probably 5 or 6 years ago, a large telco in APJ, seeing the opportunity or the importance perhaps of this technology, said, well, we're going to invest in that company. But it's also an opportunity for service providers of various sizes to get closer to their customer and to become themselves more innovative. And in the Philippines, for example, PT&T does a really good job of working with their customers to help that transformation process. And it gives service providers of all size a chance to not just be disaggregated down to what's your price for a link, but allows them to move higher up that value chain on the discussion as well. So we see it happening all around the region.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any other questions from the audience? We have a very shy audience.
There's been some good questions throughout the sessions. There was quite a lot of active chats and Q&As.
Yeah, I think they were just asking about where they can download the different information and papers that you have shared, and we have answered them. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will have one last question for each and every speaker here. What was the question that what has changed in the last 3 years? Because when you talk about using public networks such as the broadband internet, one of the reasons why people set up an MPLS network, because it's more secure, easier to manage. And now with SD-WAN, we're tapping into the public broadband internet network. What has changed in the last 3 years from a security point of view that allowed us to look at this connectivity, public connectivity, as a main and primary source for our SD-WAN connections. Anyone?
Go on, Dean.
Peter and I have known each other for many years, so I think that we are definitely seeing a acceptance of broadband and LTE as an alternate to MPLS. I think that it was gradual because of the security concerns. Many customers were nervous and worried about let's face it, MPLS is a tried and tested technology, and it is very secure when it works, when that last mile in particular works. But I think that there've been a couple of drivers that have happened. The primary driver has been cost. Organizations are looking at the price they're having to pay for broadband, and they're saying, you know what, I can put 2 broadband links in at half the cost of my one MPLS link. That's the first thing. So with that's been a big driver. And then the second has been the proliferation of the cloud. I mean, with the cloud, you're breaking that traffic out and sending it to the internet anyway, right? So as that has driven the customers to say, you know what, there's no point having this MPLS anymore because I'm sending this traffic to the cloud, so I might as well break it out to the cloud straight from the branch office. And the final point I'll say is that the SD-WAN technology has come so far, from all the vendors, where we can route packets now down dual links. We can route it down a dedicated MPLS link, and we can route it down a broadband link. And more often than not, the broadband link, the packet can get to the endpoint far faster. So when you add those 3 aspects together, we're seeing rapidly organizations feeling far more comfortable with broadband as a viable option. And we do have customers plenty today, not so much in the financial services space, but certainly in manufacturing and in other industries that are like, you know what, we're not doing MPLS at all. Everything is going to be over broadband, and we're going to route multiple broadband links, and so that we've got that security in reliability of service. And yeah, so it's a trend that's growing and growing fast.
It's hard to follow that. I think that was a really good summary. The only thing what I would add is I think that where we are today as an industry is there's a high level of demand for this type of technology because it serves a purpose. It solves a problem. Remember the 3 problems of how do I make my people more efficient, my teams more effective, and my company more secure. But it's probably worth, to your question about what's changed over the last 3 or 4 years, COVID-19 has shone a light on these challenges, and it's accelerated a lot of responses to the challenges, but they were already in play, right? They were already, SD-WAN technology was being looked at initially as a cost reduction mechanism. How can I reduce my MPLS costs? But that was a phase that we had gone through, and then it was more focused on, well, how do I make sure that we deliver the right application performance of real-time communications? And that happened just as Zoom was becoming more accepted and more widely spread. And then that happened, and so you had these kind of confluence of events that ended up, and then of course the pandemic happened. But even before COVID-19 hit, a lot of companies would say that they were probably working in a 20 to 30% remote work environment anyway. Now, for the period of COVID, it probably went to 95% remote work, and it'll settle back down, but it's never going back to 20 or 30%, right? And so I think it's the things that have changed have been both the availability and technology drivers, but most importantly, it's actually the business need that it solves.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions? Okay, if there are none, I'd like to bring back Teddy. Teddy, back to you, please.
Thank you, Bong. And thank you so much for all our panelists and Bong for hosting the panel discussion this afternoon. I think this is just a great opportunity for us to learn so much at a short period of time regarding SD-WAN from a prestigious panel, from our prestigious panelists. Thank you so much, everybody. To wrap up our discussion and our program, may I call on our ICT Committee Chairman and President of and CEO of Hungry Workforce Consultancy, Mr. Ray Lugtu, to provide his closing remarks.
Thank you, Teddy, and thank you, Bong, for that great moderation of the panel. So it has been an informative and insightful webinar that demystified what software-defined wide area networking is, or abbreviated as SD-WAN, with work from home becoming the norm and the increased usage of cloud applications as a result. There is obviously a need to optimize how organizations use the available bandwidth while making it secure. Peter Bouquet of VMware highlighted how everyone's home has become a branch office and how to make teams efficient and their access to internet and bandwidth secure by providing reliable, secure, and quality access. Keng Dang of Sonic Wall highlighted how SD-WAN can optimize the use of applications over the cloud and the potential cost savings on bandwidth, as well as other business and operational benefits. Dean Vohan of Aruba emphasized how SD-WAN is suitable to a country like the Philippines and how digital transformation requires both WAN and security transformation. So thank you again to our speakers and panelists for laymanizing SD-WAN. A big thank you again to our sponsors, Aruba, Sonic Wall Philippines, and VMware Philippines. And lastly, congratulations to the ICT committee, especially the organizing team led by Teddy Sumulong and Bong Paloma, for bringing this timely webinar to FINEX members and non-members alike. Back to you, Teddy.
Thank you so much, Chairman Ray. And again, thank you so much for closing remarks. We do have one last activity before we let you go, and that is our raffle. Lynn, we have done we've pre-drawn some raffles already. We mentioned earlier that we do have some raffles for our participants this afternoon, and we will now show some of those names to you now. Lynn, ready na ba yung mga winners? Can we show the winners? We actually pre-drawn some of them. I'm not sure if we can ready to announce it now. Lynn, are you able to provide the list of the winners? There you go. Okay. So our 10 vouchers earlier that we mentioned, our winners are Charis, Michael Romero, Joanne Mahinay, Glorian Guevara, Domingo Go, Anthony Lim, Alona Isidro, Richard Yabut, Ryan Celis, and Joseph Lu. Congratulations to everyone. So please claim your vouchers through our secretariat,
yes, sir. We will email the winner, sir.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And then anything else that we need to provide us for the raffle, or and so we also provided some work from home packets which includes a mouse pad, webcam cover, and adjustable face mask for care of Sonic also. So the winners are Rachel Galang and Nino Nakpil. Congratulations to those winners. Okay, so I think we're done.
Sir, we have one more. We will do
yes, I almost forgot. The best one ever. So we are raffling off a Samsung Galaxy SM A12 6.5-inch Infinity V for care of VMware. Thank you so much, VMware, for this raffle, by the way. So I don't know if we have a drum roll, but who is the winner, Lynn? Sinong nanalo ng ating Samsung phone care of and the winner is, may roleta tayo. So okay, Philip Dayuan. Okay, so I was asking my co-committee members, we need to make sure he's physically here. Tama, Lynn, we need to make sure he's here
Can you just chat that you're here?
Oh, can you prove that you're here? Can you
Miss
raise your
Philip,
hand or say
Mr.
thank
Philip
you?
Dayuan, can you just raise your hand or say
Yes.
something in the chat box?
Para lang we can
you are still around. Otherwise, we will
recognize you.
pick another winner.
Correct.
Sir,
That is correct.
he's not around, sir. We have
Okay,
to wrap on another.
one more time. So this is again a reward for those that stayed until the end. So we'll have to raffle it again. One more roll. Okay, Ferds Villa Soto.
He's here po, sir. Ferds
Nakita mo na?
Villa Soto. Can
Okay.
you...
For purposes of please recognize yourself.
Yeah, can you?
Ayan, sir. He sent po sa chat. I'm here.
You're here. I'm here. Okay. Very
Okay.
good. Congratulations, Ferds.
Congratulations. Yeah. So again, on behalf of my co-host, Bong Paloma and myself, thank you so much for attending this afternoon. And thank you so much for all our sponsors today and our panelists, from Peter, Ken, and Dean. We appreciate your time this afternoon. And thank you. And I hope you've learned something that you can bring to your respective businesses pertaining to the technology of SD-WAN. Thank you, and a pleasant afternoon to everyone.
Thank you. And
thank you.
Good afternoon. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dean, Ken, and Peter.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Ray.
us.
Thank you, Attorney Francis. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Chairman Ray.
Good webinar. Excellent.
Good turnout. Thank you.
Sa Facebook pa, di ba? YouTube?
Hindi
natin pa ma-determine, no?
Oo nga eh. Kasi nakita ko dito mismo sa Zoom, I saw about 120, 130 roughly.
Yeah, until then, 127 eh.
Oo nga. So, pretty good yun, Attorney.
Good
And
turnout.
Then, hindi pa kasama yung YouTube tsaka Facebook. Ano ba yun? So, should be okay.
Dami ng development sa technology, no? You have to keep up.
Dami. So it's evolving very fast, and it's really being fueled by the transformation of our businesses because of the new norm that's happening everywhere. Grabe.
Grabe talaga. Otherwise, maiiwanan ka.
Maiiwanan ka. If you don't transform, maiiwanan ka.
So iba-ibang application bilang aggregate niya, parang mag-perform better.
Yeah, so it really encourages more of a remote design operation.
Good.
So
no?
more programs to come from the ICT committee, definitely.
Hyperactive na.
Pag ni Chairman Ray, talagang kami in-encourage kami talaga to create more initiatives.
Yeah, Ray. Congrats, Ray.